Those of you that don't know, I am the Mark Day. I'm going to talk to us a little bit today about the Pinewood Derby and some of the challenges and ways to get around those challenges so that we can have a better program for our youth. I was a Cub Master. Just so you know my background, I was the Cub Master at Pack 522 out of Gilbert. I want to say I was there for the last 7-8 years in that role. Recently, I've started to volunteer with the district and migrated on, and we do the Pinewood Derby every year. One of the things that I have found in the past, and if anybody wants to chime in, Abby, keep me honest here, and would you mind managing chat if we have any chat questions to address? The Pinewood Derby is a great opportunity for kids, but it's one of the harder events to really manage well. I don't see anybody in here nodding yes or no, so I'm assuming we're nodding yes. As you know, some people will go out and we built these amazing tracks with every gadget and gizmo to measure down to the quantum millisecond on who was first and second, and it gets pretty competitive. The hardest challenge that I've always noticed is even if you have a 6-lane track, you're going to have so many of these youth that are on standby that want something to do and they need that engagement level. And what I have found is if you have a really good connection with your den leaders, if you're in the Cub Master role, start planning out in December, right, for that January or February or March Pinewood Derby. Because what you can do is things like your run-on skits and songs and games to stay engaged in between races. Arrow of Light is another great opportunity. I've seen where the Bears and the Arrow of Light have worked together to create a carnival while the Pinewood Derby is going, so youth can run up and see their cars racing. Because at the end of the day, there's groups where the youth will grab their car, run up and put it on the track and let it run. And then there's times where it's really difficult as well when youth aren't necessarily as involved. And so that's when that connection point with your fellow leaders that you're working with and making sure everyone has a very clear, complete, and mutual understanding of what to be doing. Almost essentially, just like if you look in our material that we all have access to as leaders on like how to run a campfire, having that agenda and that plan, those are going to be things that you can actually build out in ahead of time. And I hear me now, believe me later, it takes that stress away. It makes the event run smoother and it puts a lot more thought. One of the cooler things that I remember is when I was a youth, I remember working on the car with my dad. I remember he has this drill press and I had to sit there with a piece of sandpaper filing on my on the axles for the wheels to lower the friction so that they could go faster. And there's going to be, Scout is trustworthy, so it's always important to make sure that your cars are all following the standards and the same rules, 5 ounces or less, to go from there. So I know Pinewood Derby kind of seems a little scary sometimes. Does anybody have any questions? Like, what is Pinewood Derby? Where can I access some of these resources? What are some of the problems you're dealing with? Because I can tell you right now, I see Adam's on here from Pack 411. You might have an issue or a problem that you've dealt with. It might be the same thing that John or Ryan or Dave are dealing with as well. So I do want to make sure that it's not just me talking at everybody on today's roundtable. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to drop them into the chat, or you can jump off mute, whatever you think is best, but I'll leave it open for just a moment. Abby,
Yeah,
are we able?
I was just going to say, just to talk so that you're not the only one talking.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Dave Kajowski. I'm assistant assistant master over at 524.
You're a scout leader. You're here to help, and you're guiding our youth and showing them fun with a purpose. I love it, man.
Yeah, so this is my second year with the pack. My son was a Lion last year, and then I got roped into leadership, and will be like the way we rotate. I'm assistant this year, and then I'll do the leader next year, and then we kind of pull someone in that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I remember Pinewood Derby last year, it was kind of a blur just because there's so much going on with it. But in planning it for this year, one thing that we're doing, we always get like pizza and drinks and kind of make it like a whole deal, and feed everybody when they come
Yeah.
through. And that always works. And then we have like we have like TVs or like TV screens that show like a projector screen that shows the current winners and the current
Hmm.
brackets and all of that stuff up there.
Yeah.
But I don't remember really doing any activities other than just being there, watching the races, eating pizza and, just absorbing everything. So I'm
Uh,
curious to hear, like, I mean, you mentioned a couple things like the carnival stuff and practicing
yeah.
skits and stuff like that. What else do people do during that time to kind of engage everybody?
For those of you that don't know me, we all know I am pretty cringe with my dad jokes. That seems to really get a lot of laughs from some of the older cubbies. But you can also, once you become a little more familiar, and this is why communication with our den leaders is so important, right? Because they've got requirements for their youth to be able to give back to the pack. So some of them are provide a carnival or teach other scouts how to do something or present something at your next pack meeting. Just because you're having the Pinewood Derby doesn't mean that you can't use that as a wonderful forum for other advancement roles for your youth in your unit, as well. And it's a tough one. Kids love it. Everybody gets so excited about it. And then you're like, oh man, we've had anywhere from 19 to 75 people trying to race at any given time, right? So
Hmm.
your numbers can really fluctuate, and that engagement goes from, needing to do maybe a larger thing where you have options to come and go. But if you have a smaller group, just like you had said, just staying engaged and eating pizza can be enough. Because I mean, at the end of the day, what is scouting? Scouting's a leadership program. But what is Cub Scouts? Well, it's fun with a purpose. We're exposing these kids, or we're exposing the youth into opportunities to have involvement and see what they're into, what they like doing, and find that passion now instead of through YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's cool. We are doing in our December pack meeting. Um, our AOLs are setting up like 3 tables for like kind of tips and
mhm.
like walkthroughs to help the other scouts with like, hey, what are the derby requirements and how to make sure your car meets all those things, and like, hey, here's some tips on how to make a fast car, etc., kind of a thing. And we're going to kind of
Yeah.
rotate through those stations, and then there's like we have some telescopes to anyway, so we're going to be doing that whole thing, and that sounds exciting, and I'm really looking forward to see how that pans out. But great
You
point to
guys,
follow up with the den leaders and stuff on those requirements.
yeah, and always remember when we communicate with other volunteers, and I'm not saying, and I'm not targeting you, Dave. You just happen to be the one brave enough to chat with me back. We need to be so exceptionally clear with our communication because it's so difficult when we work with fellow volunteers, and I'm a volunteer too, and it's like, hey, let's do this, and everyone says, yeah, it's a great idea, but we got to make sure that as the cub master or an assistant cub master that we follow up with our den leaders on who's covering what and making sure that we are managing that master of ceremony role. Um, does anybody? What else do you guys do for your Pinewood derbies? Roundtable is supposed to be a chance for us to meet each other, right?
Hey, Mark. This is Ryan from Past 526.
Hey.
Hey, so one of the things that we kind of work towards the Pinewood Derby is we've started doing, we've been doing it for a couple years now. We usually have a lot of parents that have multiple woodworking tools. And so we kind of get together in like a couple weeks, couple Saturdays or even den meetings before. We'll get the kids together and we'll do these what we call derby garages. So
Nice.
we can all work on the cars together and they have the tools. So a lot of these kids don't have the tools to make the cars. So at least we can all get together and everyone has the same tools that they can use to
Absolutely.
work on their cars. And then when we do the events, kind of like how Dave was mentioning with the pizza, we kind of do like sub sandwiches, something simple. But then we have like 3 5-gallon water jugs. They're labeled. So like lemonade, because it's yellow, we name it radiator fluid. Tea is usually oil, and then water is just water. But we kind of make it a little fun, so it looks like a garage. We kind of set it up with a garage theme, so you're like in a pit crew type thing. So we kind of make it fun that way. But the last couple of years, because of the pandemic, my pack's been pretty small. So we haven't really needed a side gig for the kids to stay engaged. We just kind of run the kids a little bit more, so they have more time down the track. Otherwise, our entire program would only last about 45 minutes. So we
45 minutes. I would challenge you, Ryan, when we're dealing with the 5th grade and below. 45 minutes to an hour is not necessarily a bad thing. One of my biggest things when I took over as a Cub Master was it's 60 minutes or less. And that's just trying to be thoughtful, because we all have sports and games and cheer and 10 other things all happening at once these days, as families. But no, that's an excellent point. If we have a smaller group, guys, you may not necessarily need to put as much extra carnivals and games and pizzas and parties together. Or if you're looking to make that a cookout, you can do that too. The great thing is and Ryan, you were totally touching on this, make it your own, have fun with it. So these are youth, these are young little kids that are looking at us like, how do we have fun and learn? And we're here to show them.
Hey Ryan, I had a question about your derby garages. Was that just parents that happen to have like a wood shop or something set up in their garage, maybe 2 or 3 pieces of equipment? They would just kind of invite everyone over and hang out in the driveway and kind of rotate through the garage to use the tools and stuff. Is that what you're kind of describing?
Yeah. Like half the time it was at my place, because I had some sanders and some rotary saws, or belt saws. But then like another parent had another one, and so we'd bring all them over to somebody's garage that had enough room, and then we'd make it almost like a round robin setup. So there's like one table, that's where they got their car, and then you got a piece of paper that was already pre-printed that we found on a Scout website that has all the exact measurements of the block of wood, so they can make their drawing on the piece of wood on the paper first, come up with the design. Then you move to the next station where you transfer it onto the car, and it's depending on the age of the kids. The Aero Light kids, we kind of assisted them on some of the equipment, but most of the cutting of the actual bandsaw and stuff, the adults did. So basically, I used my own bandsaw. The other parent used his bandsaw because he was used to it. So we kind of do the big cuts for him, and then we had stations with different kinds of sanders, different level sanders, belt sanders, really fancy rotating cylinder disc sanders, and then this little hand like sandpaper that they can use by their hand. So we let them go on that and just told them, okay, just be careful with it. This is your car, and did it that way. So they kind of went through, and it usually took a couple meetings to get everything done, and then we had another table for paint. If they wanted to paint it there, or they could take it home and paint. But we did a whole rotating thing so everyone had a chance to get their cars done.
Outstanding. Hey, how do you guys celebrate those that win? Is it a competition? It's not, I know so we all have different ways to recognize. Some people do, best in den or best in pack, or they do both. And some people just race to race. So I'm interested to hear what everyone else is doing at their packs.
We do trophies, and I think there's trophies for each level, each rank. And then there's like overall, they would get a prize along with the trophy, whether it's a gift card or something like that.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, we had last year we had 60 scouts in our pack. And I think I think we maintained this year. We might be 5 less, but
okay.
Yeah, so we would get trophies and then prizes for the overall winners on top of that.
That's fantastic. And so one of the things that I especially like about the Cub program is, just like with Pinewood Derby or even the Rain Gutter Regatta, it's a chance for the youth to experience sportsmanship. It's a chance to say, good game, you won, I lost, because that's competition. And we're teaching people to do that with dignity and respect, not just how to win, but also how to lose. And that's what makes this such a great opportunity for for the youth that we serve. Does anybody else want to share what they do as far as for any awards or incentives for their youth?
So we did the same thing. I used to have a neighbor that donated trophies. She makes trophies for her business. So they're like professional style trophies. But we kind of got away from that just because when we were doing that, we were like 60 plus kids in our pack. And then after the pandemic, I barely made 2 years in a row with 5 kids just to make recharter. So I'm like, I don't need trophies anymore for that little amount of kids. So we kind of just went to making our own trophies for those upper ones. But one thing we do is we came up with a little program on the computer and print out certificates. And when they register their car, they get weighed. When they're not allowed to touch them anymore, it goes on a special table that's called the pit row. And then all the kids get a little piece of paper and they vote. And it's like fastest looking car, most scout spirit car, best design, most unique, different categories that the kids actually vote for the other kids. And then at the end, when we're giving out the awards for first, second, third of each rank, then we also give out who had the best design, fastest looking car. So they also get a little certificate with that too.
That's so cool. I love that. Another thing that I've seen that kind of correlates with that is when you do the registration for the cars, make sure they're 5 ounces, they're this long, they fit in the squares, they're exact specifications. I've seen where you can do little driver's licenses for them. You can take a quick picture, have it printed out and put on and with their name and their car name as well. Just more opportunity for the youth to be able to connect to that moment and remember. I'm almost 40 years old. My father's in his 80s, and I still remember doing the Pinewood Derby with my dad year after year as a kid. So I'm telling you, you guys that are new leaders and new to the role and not sure if you're doing it right, you showed up. You're doing it right. Because I'm telling you, your kid's going to remember. The other thing I was going to ask everybody that's in here is, does anybody here ever have to deal with some of the negative sides of it all? Maybe a disgruntled parent or a concerning citizen that would like to discuss their issues and problems that happen at the events. I know I've been pulled to the side, and it's always a challenge to try to handle some of that feedback. Does anybody have anything? We're not going to try to dime anybody out here, but does anybody have anything they want to work through or ask for guidance on? That's what we're here to do, is to support each other. Well, if we're not going to share,
I haven't had
Yes.
any issue. I haven't had any issues with mine. So
Okay.
they've always had fun. We've had, the only thing we've had issues with is trying to find a place to have it. We were having issues with the scheduling with the recharter where we have it's at a church, and they recently started renting their place out on Saturdays to a different organization church that meets there. So it kind of kicked out our stuff. So we were trying to find different places that we can handle that many kids and be able to put a full-on track on. We've had discussions about doing a park, but I try not to do that because I'm afraid if there's wind or whatever, it could affect the cars. And I try to let the people know, hey, they try to find something at least indoors if we can. So it was a struggle to try to find places to do our Pinewood Derbies.
Have we ever had any opportunities for multiple packs to kind of meet up and kind of join together for a joint derby session?
Yeah, we actually did that a couple years back. It was during the pandemic when we had small turnout. We kind of got together with our rival pack that was closest to us, and we were starting to do our Pinewood Derby. We still did our own, but we also met up and did like a rival one between the two packs.
hey, we got a great question in from Adam at Pack 441. Real quick, Adam, where do you guys meet at for Pack 441?
So we are chartered out of the Central District out of Kiva Elementary School is technically our charter organization.
You guys are a feeder unit for Troop 441, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yep, I'm an Eagle Scout from Troop 441.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
I was like, 441, that looks familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, I had it as 411 earlier, and I was like, no, it's
That ain't
441.
right.
So, yeah.
Very
So,
cool. It's good to know there's still meeting. I used to meet at Kiva, 20 something years ago.
Yep.
So very cool. Hey, so as far as trophies, you can order them from the Scout Shop. You can go to thrift stores and look for repurposed trophies if you're into the creative art side, being able to repurpose stuff. Those are some of the ways you can also work with, Amazon as well. And there are some trophy stores that you can Google, but I think your best bet financially is probably to work through the Scout Shop.
okay. I was just looking for, the cost of everything is going up, and I think all of us are struggling with dues and fees and everything. So I think the price of cars went up, and unfortunately we're not getting the discount. We don't quite have the 10% plus enrollment this year. So we're not on that list of discount. So just trying to save money. And does anybody else, do you guys do participation ribbons or patches or anything for your packs?
I can answer for my pack out of Gilbert. We would do participation ribbons based off of like coolest scout car, most patriotic. And then we would do medals for the dens, first, second, third. And then we would have trophies for our pack winners. And then have everyone clap and cheer them on throughout that process. Is that a picture of the herd for your background?
No, I think I don't remember where I took that one. It is not the herd though.
Okay. I was excited for him. I was like, yes. Very cool.
Yeah, I remember as a scout, like we always got the patches, and we wore the red vest as a Cub Scout with the patches. So
Pinewood Derby, absolutely.
Pinewood Derby, cool. Popcorn sales, everything else, that you just kept accumulating over the years. And so I've been trying to bring back that tradition with our pack as I'm taking over in leadership role, but it's gotten again expensive to get those patches. So I was just curious if anybody had any resources or ideas of.
It's and just to throw this at you, there is one award that besides obviously because I am an Eagle and all that. There's one award that sits on my desk, and it's been on my desk because it's part of my career. I have a plaque that's about 3x5 that I got in Cub Scouts. It's the top Scoutorama ticket sales for our pack, and I still have that to this day. Like, if I wasn't at my office, I'd be turning my camera to show you guys. In fact, it's coming into this office, probably in the next couple of days. It's one of those things, I'm 40 years old and I'm still like, what's your best award? And I'm like, that one from 1994. And people are like, what? So just think about the ripple effect. Think about what you're doing. Like, these moments that we're having with youth, we're not just building a car to build a car. We're exposing them to opportunities, to lessons, and for memories that they may not get a chance to based off of their background or upbringing or anything else. One of the things we've also been able to do is purchase cars from the Scout Shop and bring them to the pack meetings, and then offering them at the same cost so that our parents don't have to drive all over town to try and collect their cars and stuff like that. And if you talk to the Scout Shop, don't quote me on the return policies and times and things like that, but in the past, they've been more than amenable to work through that. And if they can't, that's inventory for next year.
Yeah, we do that.
What is this Scout Shop you speak of?
The Scout Shop is the building that we will be building very quickly at the herd.
Yeah, you're obviously not in construction. There's nothing going quickly right now in construction with delays
I'm familiar, but I get it. I think the hardest part, even with all the time delays, is getting it funded. But the fact that we've got an ability, we have our funds, we're dedicated to building, and that we're leaps and bounds ahead. So, but I'm excited. We'll see, right? That's all we can do. What other questions? All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
So one more. So while we're on the topic of purchasing cars, how is that working with obviously not a physical location for the Scout Shop and limited availability at David Alexander? And perfect, I saw Davis pop on here. So
I was just about to say, what an excellent question for our paid professionals, Davis and Abby Day.
So good to see you guys, Adam. Nice to visit with you again.
Yep.
I will, in the slide deck, we've got the QR code. I think we have in the slide deck the QR code to place your car order. Here's the short answer for what's going on. The car is being ordered. You're telling us the count of cars you need to our field admin. She's putting together an invoice and sending it back your way. And then it can be paid over the phone by credit card. Next Friday is, and really we'll give you through the weekend, is when we need to get those cars ordered, because I'm buying them in bulk. That's part of how I can give the discount, is I'm buying a lot of them at the same time. And so we'll get them in right before Christmas timeframe. And our goal will be to have distribution either from the Scout Shop or Scout Service Center or through your district executive. I mean, you guys in 441, you're 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from here. I probably drive right past you on my way to work. So we can get that stuff distributed before the end of December. Some packs pass out Derby cars as stocking stuffers. Some of them wait until January. But it's just being done through the office directly, and we're giving you a link to do so. One thing I'd like to point out, and I don't know how many people have picked up on this subtlety, but we didn't say you can buy cars at half off for those new kids we're recognizing. In fact, we also didn't say you can buy cars for one per registered youth in your unit. We said you can buy cars at half off. So if you've got the siblings, if you've got the parents, if you want to make sure that everyone in the pack, because it's a team effort for these things, has that opportunity, I ain't stopping you. Order enough cars for the entire experience.
So you're saying if we place an order before Friday of next week, we get them at half off? Is that?
Yes, if you were, I may have
only
just
if you were
for those
only if you were increase your enrollment, right?
Right. Otherwise, you can buy that at retail price. Yeah.
And do they still have to be ordered by the 12th, or do we have? Okay.
No. I'm just doing the discount stuff by the 12th so that I can get them to people real early, or as early as possible. But yeah.
But I'm sure you'd probably appreciate if we put our order in ahead of time, right?
I'm responsible for the membership portion. I'm not responsible for the sales portion. So those people might care, but it's not directly linked to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but the earlier you want them, the earlier that you order them, that would be fantastic. Just for that reason alone.
But Davis, I want to wait to the very last minute to see you running around with your head cut off.
Right. No time like the last minute.
Right.
Other things, as long as we're talking about Scout Shop stuff briefly, and I'm talking to Cub Masters, and you guys get a lot of awards and things like that, or pack leadership at least. We have a limited quantity, but we're keeping it stocked, of handbooks, neckerchiefs, and patches, like the cloth patches. We can also get stuff in pretty darn quick. Now, it means that you can't stop by the Scout office on your way to the blue and gold. It's going to take a little bit of energy to be ahead of the game, but we can help get that stuff in. If you're looking for some of those more niche items, and not that the uniform is niche, but even if you're looking for more shirts and things like that, we're encouraging people to purchase them through the Tucson Scout Shop because it is semi-local and they've got a pretty quick turnaround time until we've got our shop up and running. Yeah. Awkward pause.
Yeah, I'm on mute, aren't I? Hey guys, I just wanted to touch on the fact some of the other groups are starting to wrap up. So I went ahead and I put my personal cell phone in there. So anybody that's on this call, if you have any questions, comments, or you want to reach out to somebody or just talk shop about Scouts or need help on a resource or a guidance, I'm a volunteer, but I put my cell phone down there. Please feel free to contact me directly. And if I don't know the answer, we can call Davis. Hi. So from that, is there anybody? This is a great opportunity. We have about a couple of minutes. If anyone has any questions or comments, concerns, or anything that they want to address or bring to the table, that's what it's for. Welcome to Roundtable, right? So now's the time.
That's
Very
right.
little.
Yeah, I think
Abby!
they're organizing the info now. Oh yeah.
Well, the questions were
call.
basically like I think last year we didn't get information until what seemed like the very last minute. So I was curious if that's going to happen again this year. But then there's also questions about do we pick the neighborhood that we want to do, and how does that process kind of work?
Yeah, I can answer those. They're not necessarily good answers, but they're accurate. It's largely the last minute that we start pushing and promoting this stuff, because it's largely the last minute that the people who are engaged in it start saying, hey, what's going on? The honest answer is that we make almost no updates to the materials from one year to the next. So those self-print things, that's as accurate as it's going to be. With regards to which neighborhoods do folks have, yes, it is self-selected. There is a small risk of overlap, and I don't know what a canned food turf war looks like, but I think that's probably best for the overall. I mean, that's probably good for the community if everybody's out there trying to support each other. There's a very small chance for overlap as you consider how large our population is and how many scouting units we have. My recommendation, my encouragement is to say, what elementary school do most of our scouts come from? What is the geographic boundary of that school? And that way you've got good coverage, because those are the families in your neighborhood there.
Okay, so if we wanted to, like, the neighborhood that we did last year was the neighborhood that we did the year before, kind of a thing. We were thinking about just doing that again, but we weren't sure if there was any kind of bureaucracy involved with that. But it sounds like no. So we can kind of, it would be safe for us to kind of reach out and get in contact with their HOA, because they help advertise the whole thing and, you know, let their community know that we're coming and stuff. It doesn't sound like there would be any reason why we should not do that sooner, because
no, you're invited to be as proactive as you want to be for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Do you have anything else they need some support on? I want to be respectful of everyone's evenings and get us back to our kids, our wives, our husbands, our significant others, our spouses, our friends and families and things alike. Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. Why not? All right. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for spending this time with me. And once again, I am still the Mark Day, and I am still here to support you. Have a good night, everyone.